I'm a client of the Canadian financial services industry and have been for over 20 years. I've never sold life insurance. I've never sold a mutual fund. I've never worked for a financial services company. I don't do what you do. But over the last 20 years, I've learned the value of what you do for us, the Canadian public. I wrote this book called Rich is a State of Mind. Canadian bestseller. And when I come out to speak in Alberta, it's always kind of a heartwarming thing for me because it was the first place that ever appeared on the bestseller list in the Calgary Herald. So it's always great when I get to come back out here and do this. Now, this is not an easy thing for a book on personal finance for Canadians to do, is make the bestseller list. I know when Dan Brown's new book comes out on September 18th, I'm no threat to him. And that's okay. But I didn't write this book for you, the financial professional. I wrote it for your clients, and I wrote it for your prospects to help them understand the value of working with you, the financial professional, and to help speed up the education process. When people ask me, so what's the book about? I tell them the same thing all the time. Rich is a State of Mind is a novel as seen through the eyes of a slightly dysfunctional Canadian family. And every time I do that, I get the exact same response. They look at me and they go, "You've met my family." Because we all tend to think our families are slightly dysfunctional. Now, one of the things I always leave out of my bio is that I have a BA in psychology from Wilfrid Laurier University. I understand the concept of dysfunction. And the family at the heart of this story is not dysfunctional. Let's just call them quirky. You know, the kind of family, somebody forgot to send a birthday card, somebody didn't show up for Thanksgiving dinner, by the summer barbecue, nobody's talking to each other anymore. That kind of quirkiness within the family. And the book has 4 central characters. Richard Jarvis, who's the mentor in the book, his niece and nephew, James and Joyce, who are in their mid-20s trying to come to grips with the whole concept of finance, money, why do I need insurance, what's it all about, won't the future just take care of itself? And Richard's best friend, John, who's one of you, financial industry professional. Richard paints pictures, John provides the nuts and bolts to creating a financial plan as this story gets shared intergenerationally between a family over a 13-month period. A lot of people have asked me if I'm Richard in the book. I'm not. I aspire to be Richard. I think he's an interesting character. But how many of you are familiar with the black sheep concept within the family structure? Okay. Richard was the black sheep within his family, thought a little differently, wanted different things, wasn't a standard thinker, and in his family that was, well, you just don't do that, and so they shunted him aside, and the book opens with James and Joyce finding out that they actually have an Uncle Richard. Which when you get into your mid-20s and find out you've got relatives you didn't know about, well, you've got a communication problem in the family. Richard was individualist, kind of a forward-thinking person, much like many of us in the room are. Now, you shared with me you understand the concept of the black sheep within the family. How many of you are like me, a card-carrying member of the black sheep fraternity? Any of us? There's at least a dozen of us in the room willing to raise our hands in front of our peers, and that's very heartwarming to me as a speaker that I'm not the only one here. But at the same time, it also makes me a little sad because, well, I need to share with you this. I'm an only child.